By the end of this video, you will have everything you need to finally go all in and buy the pearl. Welcome to Cultivating Consciousness. My name is Denise. I am a consciousness mindset coach. If you would like to work with me, there's a link in the description below that will take you to my website. I'd like to say thank you for being here. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. I truly appreciate your support. In my years of coaching and also reflecting on my own experience, I have come to the conclusion that we struggle most with going all in. We struggle most with abandoning our 3D and allowing ourselves permission to fully immerse our consciousness in the reality we would prefer. And this makes sense because we've been living up until learning this information or opening up to it and exploring it more. We've been living in a reality where we've been believing it's happening outside of us. There's nothing we can do about it. And we just observe it and react and respond accordingly. And so when we've been so conditioned or used to reacting to what's happening outside of us and just living in that reality, the idea of suddenly shifting and starting to allow yourself to go in your imagination, and not just in a way of fantasizing or hoping or daydreaming, but in a way of really choosing it and selecting it, can be a scary thing. It's kind of like we're abandoning everything we've known. And if we abandon everything we know, we're stepping into the unknown, and what's going to happen there, right? So I've noticed that, that seems to be the issue. And even if we're not diving all in, many of us, myself included, struggled with even giving myself little bits and pieces of going in until it became natural and normal and sort of commonplace for me to stay there and dwell there. And so same thing, it's that fear about the unknown, that fear about what if it doesn't work, and thinking that in our awareness to our 3D reality and in our, awareness, staying informed, being able to react and respond or defend ourselves or argue against this, whatever it is, we feel like we have some sort of control. We feel like we're in it and we're active and we're a part of it and we're controlling and shaping it. But that's one of these great illusions, is that we're not. It's just a game within ourselves. There's nothing where we are controlling it to begin with, and then we're controlling it to appear as though it's something we now need to try to get involved with and control further and turn into something else, when it really is about allowing ourselves to abandon that completely and go all in. And like I've said before, for me, it was I worked my way toward it, right? I would practice deliberately going in imagination and feeling something to the state of fulfillment. And I did that for quite some times, depending on what I was creating and what area of my life it was, it varied. But sometimes it was, as short as hours, sometimes it was days and weeks, sometimes it was months. Some of these things took me years to really not only go all in on, but prior to going in, getting clear on where I was going. And I don't mean where in a place, but I mean, what does it actually really tangibly look like in my mind? How am I feeling? What's happening? What am I hearing? What am I saying? It took me a while to start allowing myself to even practice choosing those things over what had been continuously reflecting and happening in my reality out here. And I get that. I know that this isn't for the faint of heart, as I recently discussed with a client again, which comes up often, because it really isn't. And it's not just about making things happen or changing a reality or getting something to show up. It is a journey of expansion. It is a journey of exploring consciousness. It is a journey of mysticism. It's much deeper than just, I can make money show up and I made my specific person show up and look what I got. And I, changed this about my physical appearance. Those things are great and they're fun, but that's not really what this is about at all. That's just usually what brings us into learning about this. It's sort of like the carrot dangling to get us interested in it, right? Although some of us were interested way earlier in life and geeked out on this for decades, and that's fine too. But nonetheless, even for myself, so I was interested in it for decades and from as far as I can remember, or fascinated by a broad concept in relation to it. Obviously, when I was 9 and 12, I didn't really know, I hadn't heard terminology and I didn't know much about it. But the point is that even for myself, it took desiring specific things to show up in my life for me to start really taking it seriously and commit to myself and actually going all in and choosing it. And so there's nothing wrong if you want things. I'm not saying don't want things. I think that they're an integral part of this expansion. But yeah, that's just it. It's, understanding that if you are struggling in that area, it's okay. If you feel like it's taking a long time, if you feel like you keep getting 2 steps ahead and then 1 step back, that's okay. Like, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It doesn't mean you're not able to consciously create your reality. It just means that there's still a part of you that's comfortable going back to the identity that doesn't have it yet. That's really all it means. There's still a part that's comfortable with that. And you can explore what it is about that, right? So I say this a lot in my videos that I recommend people ask themselves, if I already was living in that life, what would a day look like? Just start with a day. You don't have to create, the whole broad picture. Just zoom in on one day of you living the reality you desire, or just having that one thing you're desiring right now, and start to, differentiate or notice what is different about that version of you and this version of you. And not so much, yes, how you're feeling, but also all of it. Like, if it's related to success, and related to your schedule, or how much you're sleeping, or what time you're getting up, or how much time you're devoting to this thing that you want to learn more about, and all of that. It's like, if you already were living that reality, what would be different? And start to practice those things now, because that's how you be the version, is you actually be the version. Walking as if, living as if. It's really starting to immerse yourself in here as if you're already that person, which when you immerse yourself in here, it's going to get out pictured, right? So that part's, I always suggest people do that. And I think it's widely beneficial, and it just helps create discipline. It helps you understand also where and when you may be preferring the old reality, even though it's not what you want. But why, like, what is it about it that has you feeling it's comfortable? What is it about it that has you feeling it's safe? Or what is it about your desire being fulfilled that has you feeling afraid or hesitant? Or, what are your concerns and worries? And let yourself explore all that stuff. There's no problem in allowing yourself to admit what has been keeping you from going all in, or living that life, or becoming that version now. It's okay to look at it and define it and label it. And in fact, in doing that, it usually allows us to just let it go. And then, all right, now I'm ready to do it. I've accepted that I was afraid of fame, or that I was afraid of love, or that, I was afraid of wealth. I've accepted that I was afraid of that. And now I don't have to, it's not holding me back anymore. That fear isn't something that I keep pushing up against and trying to kind of ignore or conquer. It's just acceptance. And that's not what I want. So I get to now choose to, if I already had it, I wouldn't be afraid of it, because I'd be in it. I'd be managing it. It'd be wonderful. It'd be effortless. So allowing yourself to go there. But that's not really what this video is about. This video is about what I believe helps all of that stuff happen effortlessly. And if I had known this, and I'm sure I heard it, and I'm sure I said it, and I'm sure I knew it consciously, but if I had known it like I know my name, I would not have had all those years of, going through things and having them come and go, and all of the emotion and all of the depth. And I don't regret that at all. So that's a whole part of who I am as far as I'm concerned. And I love that whole journey. So also, if you feel like that's your story, like you're in this sort of repetitive place that it might feel a little different, but things are still the same and it's okay. Like, because when you accept that you are who you want to be, and when you allow that to be your dominant identity, that you have what you desire and go all in, you're going to be able to reflect upon your journey of getting there as perfect and beautiful and all a part of it. And you'll have this sense of sort of gratitude. And I don't know if it's pride, just appreciation for yourself and how it all works because of look what I did, right? I actually expanded my consciousness. I became consciously aware of something that I wasn't previously seeing. And I've said this before, but I think that is the coolest freaking thing. So it's super fun. But back to what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about all of it. I really, really believe that the one thing is the acceptance that consciousness is God, that consciousness is source. Because when you surrender to that, when you fully accept that, suddenly it's like, well, why wouldn't I? Like, that's what living in the end is, right? Like, same idea. It's like live from the source, live from the end, live from fulfillment. When you live from the knowing, or even just the choosing to have faith in, or choosing to experiment with the concept that consciousness is the only true reality, that consciousness is God, that it is the creative force, then you cannot find yourself in a reality where you're struggling to discipline your thoughts, or where you're struggling to find the state, or struggling to figure out anything, because those consciousnesses, they don't match up. The one of Christ, right, which is really, Christ is consciousness, right? I look at it as it's a level of consciousness. I don't think it was a person's last name. I think the story is that Jesus represents man in physical form who has risen in consciousness to the consciousness that we would call Christ consciousness. And that's why we called him Jesus Christ. And I think that the consciousness of Christ is the consciousness that assumes oneness with the divine, like completely, no separation. And in that assumes the authority of the divine. Jesus could perform all of these miracles because he believed that he was of the Father. In scripture, when it says, accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, that's what that is. It's accepting that consciousness is the power. That's the only thing. If you follow that, if you dive into that, why, like I said, either accepting it fully, surrendering to it, or saying, what if it is? I'm going to do an experiment as if I were a scientist in this area, a consciousness scientist, and I am going to, for X amount of days, live as if that's my truth and see what happens. Right? So this is why Neville always talked about, go try it. Don't take my word for it. Do it. Be it. And that's the only thing you have to do. You don't have to figure out all these other things that we're talking about, which we talk about them because people are asking the questions, right? We talk about identity and self-concept and the other and, you know, your perceptions and what blocks might be there if it's related to relationship or love. We talk about all that because we're asked about all that. But that can also bring you further into the reflection. So when you really allow yourself to, like I said, accept, surrender to, or experiment with the truth that only consciousness is God, only consciousness creates reality, consciousness is the one and only true reality, and you live like that's the only thing that matters, is what you are being conscious of. Every other question you have about manifestation or how to this or how to that is automatically answered, because that's the answer. Only imagination is real. That's the only thing to embrace, to cherish, to uphold, to put effort into, and to let be your truth. And like I said, when you let that be your truth, The rest happens effortlessly. Because you cannot live in the consciousness of Christ and live in the consciousness of fear at the same time. You cannot live in the consciousness of Christ and live in the consciousness of struggling to figure out how to mental diet, or what am I supposed to say, or how do I get what I want. They are not synonymous to each other. They do not add up. It's impossible. So give yourself permission today, right now, to accept this one truth. Only consciousness is real. And watch your reality follow suit, because it will. As you accept that consciousness, your consciousness will follow suit and your reality will follow suit. And it becomes joyful, and it becomes playful and exciting and fun. It's no longer a task. It's no longer, you're not efforting to try to do something. You're not struggling. You're just knowing what to do in every moment as anything appears. And you know that anything that appears that goes against your desire does not matter, as long as you go in consciousness to what you would prefer. The reality loses power, in other words. And that doesn't mean it doesn't feel good when great things are happening. And that doesn't mean, since you're now the cause and the experiencer of the cause, the observer, all of it, it doesn't mean that interactions with people aren't warm. In fact, I feel like interactions are more engaging and more meaningful now for me. And everything is brighter and everything feels better. And if I am faced with something that goes against what I see as an ideal reality or heaven on earth, it's very easy to go, oh, even if I'm having a judgment about somebody out there, it's very easy to just observe it, not put a whole lot into it, not feel bad about it, not dwell in it, not worry about it, but just to shift to like, oh yeah, what would I prefer? I have that in here. So that's what I encourage you to do today. Accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, because that is what creates. It is the Lord, and it is what saves, because it is how you shift your reality from doom and gloom to joy and happiness and abundance. All right. I'll see you all next video.